Hi everyone, a few weeks ago I made a video on the apps that were on my iPad Pro. So I focused mainly on productivity and creativity and talked a bit about entertainment, of course. I made also a video about the things that were in my bag, so what I carry around. And I still carry around a MacBook Pro even though I have this iPad. And so today I wanted to talk about why that is. Why I can't just use the iPad Pro as my main device. And I also want to talk about why some people might be able to do that and why even more people will be able to do that with the new iPad OS 16 coming up soon. At its beginning, the iPad was just like a bigger version of the iPhone. It was mainly just to consume media.
You can browse the web with it. It is the best browsing experience you've ever had. Right there, holding the internet in your hands.
As they kept updating the software for the iPad, so iPad OS, more and more, the iPad really became its own thing. And now that they are running the same M1 chips that we're seeing in their newer devices like the MacBook Air and the older MacBook Pros, the iPad is now a really powerful machine. And I really think that now there are people out there that can use it to replace their computer. And I say this because I actually carried this iPad through a lot of different situations. So I bought it when I was studying in business, where I think it was more of a regular kind of setting where most people would use an iPad. And then I went into design school, and that's where the iPad stopped being my main device. And now I work as a web designer, and the iPad just simply can't cut it at all. So when I was in business school, the use cases that I had for this iPad were mainly taking notes when I was in class, maybe replying to emails, watching YouTube, stuff like that, the regular kind of use that you would get out of an iPad. And also reading documents, taking down notes and PDFs that the teachers would send us. And I could even play around with numbers in apps like Excel. So if you're someone that's mainly the use that you get out of your computer anyways, the iPad is actually super good because it's a lot smaller, you can carry it around everywhere, it's lighter than a computer, and if you pair it with the Apple Pen, it's definitely a really good device. I also think if you're planning on using this device as your main device, you absolutely need a keyboard. I didn't, just because I still had a computer and I kind of saw that I was going to move into design and I couldn't use the iPad anymore, so that's why I didn't purchase the keyboard. I just kept my regular computer for that. But still, the iPad is great if that's what you're planning on doing. I also have to talk about if you're an artist, the iPad is probably the best device out there if you're digital painting. It's actually the only reason why I bought the Pro model at that time. So this is the one that I carry around is a 2019 model. And I truly think that if you have a 2019 and up, you don't need to upgrade to the later ones. They're still really good. And if you pair the iPad Pro with the Apple Pen and an app like Procreate for digital painting, there just aren't any better experiences out there, as far as I've tried at least. So highly recommend it if that's what you're going to be using it for. So at some point in business school, I decided to go study in graphic design. The goal is actually to work in UI UX, web design, all of that, which is what I'm doing now, so I'm happy about that. But yeah, in design school is where the iPad just couldn't be my main device at all anymore. And the first and main reason for that is the pro apps that you need just aren't on the iPad. So if you're someone that needs to use apps like, let's say, Photoshop, Illustrator, if you're editing videos like I am on Adobe Premiere, the iPad just can't cut it, sadly. And if you're even a programmer or something like that where you really need a more powerful machine, the iPads just can't cut it mainly because of the iPad OS. There are a lot of features that are on a computer that aren't on an iPad, sadly. So when I was in design school, the iPad became a secondary device that I still use for taking notes, reviewing documents, even reviewing my own work. And of course for drawing, which I did a lot, I was able to do my own illustrations for the work that I was doing, all of that. It was really fun. And now that I work as a web designer, the iPad is pretty much just a distraction device. I still use it a bit for productivity. Like in the morning, I like to read on it. It's the main productive usage I get out of the iPad. I read things like, either articles, emails, stuff like that. I might play around a bit with my to-do list, but most of the productive work gets done on my computer because it's just a better experience. And so like I said, it's now mainly a distraction device. It's my secondary screen that I just keep like something like YouTube open throughout the day. And I also still use it for drawing and taking notes in meetings. The iPad has a cool feature where if it's closed, you just tap on it with your Apple Pen and it will just open up a new note. So I found it great in meetings. I think it's more respectful to use like, well, it's kind of like a pen and paper feeling. I think it's more respectful than typing on your computer, and I also use it to like draw ideas and stuff. So you can clearly see that now the iPad isn't my main device at all. And another thing I want to touch on is the iPad is pretty small. So if you actually want to have a larger computer, or a larger monitor rather, like I do, I have a 32-inch right there, the iPad will not sadly scale the screen to fit your monitor. You'll just have a mirrored screen of your iPad, which is quite annoying if you're a regular user and you just want to have a larger monitor. Sadly, it's not the best experience, and that's where I think that iPadOS 16 is really going to shine for a lot of people. The new OS will allow you to plug in any monitor. It will scale the screen to the monitor, so you'll be able to use it as a main device with your secondary monitor. And you'll also be able to do better multitasking, because like when I was in business school, I used to have a document like on the left and then take notes on the right of my iPad quite often, and the iPad is a bit small for that, so it's kind of annoying. But if you're having a better, larger monitor, then it makes a lot more sense to be multitasking on this device. And with the introduction of Stage Manager in iPadOS 16, this multitasking experience will be even better. So overall, a lot more people are going to be able to use it now. You'll be able to have multiple apps open, multiple windows, like you do on a regular computer. And even though iPadOS 16 is really nice, and as they keep updating the software for the iPad, the lines between iPadOS and macOS are getting more and more blurry. I don't think that the iPad is gonna be a replacement for pro users anytime soon, sadly. Mainly because of the apps. I don't believe that Apple will be bringing pro apps to the iPad, simply because that would absolutely kill the sales of their MacBooks. Because if you pair the iPad with like a keyboard, you pretty much have a MacBook Air without the pro apps. And now if you bring the pro apps to the iPad, why would you ever buy one of those MacBooks, right? Doesn't make a lot of sense. So I don't believe that Apple will be doing that soon, sadly. I know that there are a lot of pro apps that are on the iPad, and they're just iPad versions of these apps. So sadly, they don't have as much features for most of them. The only one that I think is now pretty much the same as on your computer would be Lightroom. But if you look at Photoshop, Illustrator, or any video editing app, they're just not as good on the iPad, sadly. Hopefully this video was helpful. I'd like to hear what you use the iPad for down in the comments. And if you want to learn more about the things that I carry around every day, you can check out this video that I made on my everyday carry as a web designer. And that's it for me. Thank you. Have a great day.